Hi, this is Rose McDonough coming to you from my kitchen. I've had a few that I've not been in my kitchen. I've been other places, but here we are. Tonight I'm making some meatballs for dinner to go with some spaghetti, and I'm also going to have some dip to go with some bread, but we need to start with some Italian meatballs. So I have added here a cup of oats, and these are the old-fashioned oats that I'm using, and I put into that a half of a cup of milk. And I'm stirring this just until the milk is mostly absorbed. It starts to look almost like cooked oatmeal. That's about what we're going for. Although, because when you use the old-fashioned oats, they don't cook up like the other oats do. The quick oats are already ground through and have been cooked once. So anyway, doing this, why? Because this is part of my filler that I'm adding to this. It's also a binding agent, the oats are. I'm going to put an egg in, but if you don't have an egg, don't say, oh, I can't make meatballs because I don't have an egg. That sometimes when I'm making my Swedish meatball recipe, I do not have an egg in this one. But this particular one, I generally do. Again, the egg, the oats, they act as a binding agent. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my egg in now. I have to tell you, I don't love touching eggs, and I really don't like touching the raw meat that I'm going to have to touch when I do this. Now, let's go talk about the meat. What kind of meat do you need? It's up to you. You definitely want to have some fat in it, so you're not looking for a 95.5. You might want to go with something a little bit different. I'm going with something that's about an 80-20, but I decided, because I like in my meatballs, and if you can do this in your meatloaf as well, to also get some pork in there. People seem to like that a lot. I was at the store and they had a meatloaf mix, and the meatloaf mix was already prepared with the ground meat, has some pork in it, and has some veal in it as well. How much? About 1.5 pounds. So I have a cup of the oats. I have a half a cup of milk, and as you can see, it just looks, I don't know, not so attractive, does it? And I'm going to put the meat in last. You probably think I'm crazy when I say that, because when it gets down to it, you don't want to be touching this a whole lot. And I'm going to add in, I have some Parmesan cheese. I also had some Parmesan Romano, so I just mixed the two of those in, about 1/4 of a cup. I have, that's my oven telling me it's preheated to 400 degrees. I have a half a cup of breadcrumbs going in, but I am using the Italian breadcrumbs. If you want to use panko, which are a little bit thicker, you can use that, but I'm just using the regular breadcrumbs that are Italian seasoning. I'm putting about a tablespoon of dried parsley. Just remember, when you're doing this, you want to crunch it and bring it back to life. It smells so different once you do that. I'm also putting in minced onions. I have about a tablespoon of minced onions. I could have put the onions in when I put the milk in originally, just to soften those up as well, but I'm assuming the 20 minutes in the oven will do that. The recipe calls for Italian seasoning. I couldn't believe it. I didn't have any Italian seasoning in my cupboard. Well, that's easy. Let's just go ahead and make it. So I need a teaspoon of the Italian seasoning. What I did was garlic powder. I did 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. I did 1/4 teaspoon of oregano. And then I did 1/2 teaspoon of basil when I put all this together. So that all came together. 1/4 teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon, all comes out to be 1 teaspoon. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm putting it in my hands. I'm going to crunch it and add it to here. All right, folding it together. And of course, you know what I'm using. Rubber scraper. Why would we never use a rubber scraper to mix everything together? And I always laugh about, you know, my little weird thing I do with my hands here. I don't actually need this bowl that is so big, but I chose to use that because it's glass, and I figured you all could see a whole lot easier in there. You also notice, if you can see any of my tools around here, I have a mat here, and I have something else that's a little bit weird. I'm making meatballs. Pizza cutter? Yes. Wait till you see what I'm going to do. And I told you I got my oven ready to 400 degrees. I also have gone ahead and I've gotten a baking sheet and I lined it with aluminum foil. I am using heavy duty aluminum foil. Why? Because I'm lazy tonight And this way, when I'm using it, I'm gonna be able to just make a pour spout and pour out any of the grease that is left on here. And clean up is a lot easier. All right, so I've got all that added into there. Now my least favorite part is I have to add the meat in here. And let's not cook that because nobody wants that to be cooked. Toss that away. Okay, I should have probably gotten a plastic glove for this. This, honestly, my least favorite thing here. Ugh, I don't like to touch raw meat. Even when I do chicken, most of the time I do it when it's partially frozen. Just how I am. Funny story, when my kids were little, I am that parent who used to make my kids in the summer cook. Yep, they had to pick a night. They didn't cook by themselves. I cooked with them. Cole happens to be behind the camera tonight, so let me tell you first. Cole decided, oh, I'm going to make something easy. I'm going to make grilled chicken salads. And then when he found out all the vegetables that he had to prep, and I made him hard cook eggs and cook the chicken, I think the kid was off cooking for like the next 10 years, possibly at that point. He hated cooking. Tyler, on the other hand, chose that he wanted to make meatballs because he loved meatballs. And so we were doing the meatballs. No, was it maybe it was meatballs or meatloaf that he wanted to make. But we were making a double batch because I was going to use one for one night. And we were putting ketchup into it. And I put mustard into it because of the kind that I was making. So he had everything down here in here. And he had how much ketchup in there, and then he had the mustard in there. You might have heard the story before, I'm not sure. And then the egg on top of it. And he's like, okay, now what? And I said, well, it's better if you just put your hand in there, just like I'm doing, and start mixing it. And just to disperse it through. He looked at it, he looked at me, he looked at it, he looked up again, and he looked at it, and then he said, remind me never to make this again. That was my 8-year-old. All right, remember I said don't overmix it. I just wanted to make sure I got it mostly dispersed in. You might see some people do a video of it, and you'll see that you can see all the parsley still hanging out because they barely put this in. It's a little bit dry. If I wanted to, I could add about another 1/4 cup of milk to it, but I'm thinking I'm fine with this tonight. This is good. I want them to really stay together because they're going to be mixed in with spaghetti sauce at a later time. And now I'm going to do this real weird thing. And I'm going to flatten it out using my hands. But we're going to flatten it out until it's about, I don't know, maybe an inch thick. I want to be able to get about 48 meatballs out of this. All right, I've got it mostly flattened out, sort of into a square. Why am I using this? Because I'm going to cut, pick it up, a little bit of a rolling, toss it onto my pan. Pick it up, you don't have to roll so much, and they should be fairly consistent in size. Once I've done this, I'm going to put them onto that prepared baking pan. Put them in the oven for about 18 to 22 minutes, so let's just say about 20 minutes. How do you know? They need to be 165 degrees inside. So if you've never gone ahead and gotten a thermometer, now's the time you want to get your thermometer and use that. Or, of course, just break one in half. You break it in half. Is it still pink inside? Okay, then I guess it's not done. You need to bake them for a few more minutes. You can also take these at this point, put them onto your baking sheet, put them in the freezer, and about 20 minutes to a half an hour later, take them and put them in freezer bags and put them away for however long it is that you're going to want. You know, in another couple of weeks, you want to have meatballs. They're already pre-done. You can add them into soups. You can put them into your sauce while your sauce is heating up, and they can finish cooking. You see me tipping off a little bit off of here. That was because that end piece that I did, I know it wasn't quite the same. I felt that when I was doing it. That's it. This is simple. This is easy to do. 48 of these, that's a lot of meatballs. If you want to do several pounds of ground meat at the same time, great way to do it. See how easy that was? You don't have to be thinking about it. Some people say, I just use 2 spoons. That's fine. Go ahead and use 2 spoons. Or maybe they want to use a scoop that you use for cookies. You can do that too. I just find this happens to be the easiest way. I pulled 2 out here. Who do we have here? We have Natalie Holzer. Natalie, how are you? Thanks for subscribing. And Emma Bergman, who liked my skillet broccoli and chicken. Please come back and comment whether you've made it and whether you liked it. Thank you. For everyone else, like, subscribe, leave positive comments, especially if you've made something. Let me know that you like it. And for the few people who, when I do this on Facebook, have commented that they've made it, Jake loves the cinnamon roll recipe. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, I'll show you a picture when it's all done after it's been baking. Have a wonderful rest of your day.